Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. You know where you are, the 9 at 9 with me, Tigo. And if you're watching the show right now, you know what's coming. We're bringing another great expert to the deck. But this one's really going to help me because you guys have heard me talk about my wonderful grandsons ever since I started this show. And they're all getting bigger, 3, 8, and 16 going on 30. And I have no idea how to talk to them. So what do? I go get someone that has the art of talking with children. Rebecca Rolland is here today. So sit right there. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Yep, you heard me right. Do you know how to talk with your children or grandchildren? I thought I did, but my 3-year-old grandson doesn't even listen to me anymore. So what do? We call Rebecca. Rebecca, are you out there?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Help. How do I talk to my 3-year-old grandson who'd rather say no to anything than say yes to me?
Yeah, I mean, I have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, so I definitely know the feeling. One thing I've actually developed is lots of different ways of saying no without using the word no.
Okay, I'm listening. How do you do that?
For example, maybe tomorrow, probably later, let's write down the things you want to do and we'll pick one. All of these kinds of things without
that's a great
having
idea.
to utter the word no, which often kind of creates that cycle of no and more defiance and more no's.
Now, I know you wrote a book called The Art of Talking with Children, and we're definitely going to get into that. And we've got to get into the 7 pillars of rich talk because something tells me you're not talking about multi-level marketing or network marketing. It has something to do with kids. But, I was so excited when I read your bio and everything. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to actually be able to connect because I feel like as I get older, the kids are just speaking an entirely different language than, when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, you were seen, you weren't heard, you had no opinion. My dad was like, when you get a job, you can have an opinion. Until then, forget about it. So what makes it different now? We've got so much going on. You and I were talking about war earlier. We're just coming through a pandemic. We've got kids going to school at home. How do you connect with your kids now?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple important things. One is to focus on the back and forth. So I wrote the book, The Art of Talking with Children and not at children, because I'm really emphasizing how much you're talking and how much a child is talking. How do you find that balance? So we often are lecturing, but without getting inside a child's head. So it doesn't mean let a child do whatever they want, but actually start with what they're thinking about.
Wow. And you're a mom. We already covered that, 5 and 10. But you also this has been your passion and your education. You've got a doctorate in education. So what made you decide to work with children? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I was really loved language for a long time. And I met some kids who just couldn't express themselves. They had lots and lots of speech problems, lots of difficulty making themselves heard. And I saw how much this impacted their identities and their relationships. They couldn't make friends. And this was really inspiring to me as a challenge to think, well, how can we help these kids? And I started to realize kids who don't have those huge difficulties also have trouble making themselves understood a lot of times. So this really brought me all the way full circle.
And what about social media now? Now with social media, I was talking with a doctor yesterday, and I was in a room that had to be 30 people in there, from little kids to grown-ups. They all had their phones or their tablets or whatever, and everybody was doing this. There was absolutely no. So how is that affecting kids if they don't get that social skill of interacting and all of that? They're just focused on the next swipe up. What does that mean for us?
Yeah, I think it's a big problem. And I think it's not just social media. So I make a difference between how you use social media actually. So like
Okay.
you said, is everybody alone together? I like that word
Mm.
because they're all sitting there, they're all together, but they're not interacting. I think
Hmm.
that kind of use of social media really does lead to a lot of isolation and stress and anxiety.
I'm a big home improvement watching person. I drive my brother crazy because he comes here and I make him watch it. And I saw one where they built a restaurant and they put what they called the phone holder at the end of the booth.
Mhm.
Everybody, before they could place an order, they had to put their phones in the pocket. And I was like, that's amazing. And it made me focus when I went out to dinner or lunch or breakfast at how many people were sitting together at a table and not
Mhm.
talking to each other because they're so focused on their phones, right? So we
Exactly.
started for holidays. We started, time for dinner, time to hang out. Everybody had to put their tablets
Mhm.
and everything away. When
Mhm.
kids are little like that, when they're 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10, how is it affecting them if they're not like have somebody in their world that says, time to put it down?
Yeah.
Can it be too much?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And it's actually interesting. There's research showing like, even 2 year olds, if their parents are on their phones a lot of the time, especially kind of as a habit, the 2 year olds are exploring their worlds less and they're connecting with the parent less because they kind of know my mom or my dad, they're not paying attention to me, they're paying attention to their phones. So to realize how much this is impacting kids when they're not actually exploring their worlds because they don't have anyone to talk about it with is going to be a huge problem growing up.
So how, I saw where you really focus on cultivating children's creativity, kindness, and curiosity. How do you do that in 2022?
Yes, a couple of things. I think one is to make time, not all the time, but at least in sort of 5 to 10 minute chunks throughout the day, to really sit and listen to what kids are actually interested in. So actually listen to the stories they tell you, ask them why. Why do they like something? Why are they curious
Mhm.
about that? Get them to kind of explore their own minds. And just doing that in little chunks can really help bond you and also teach you about your child.
At the top of the show, I said we're going to talk about the 7 pillars of rich talk, and I was kidding about it not being network marketing. It's not network marketing, is it?
No, no, no. This is the idea: is how to jumpstart kind of more meaningful talks with your kids. So rich talk doesn't mean rich in money, but kind of rich in the quality.
Nice. So what's the 7 pillars? Because Alan's going to cut us off soon.
Of course, yeah. So the 7 pillars are learning, empathy, social skills, confidence, play and creativity, openness to difference, and the last one is temperament. So how to actually work with a child's temperament.
And where did you come up with these 7 pillars? What made you decide to just focus on those 7? Because I know there's 7,000 things you could teach.
Of course, yeah. So for this book, I did a combination of things. I used my own experience, but I also did a ton of research, talking to experts from around the world. And these 7 pillars were results because I thought they're important for children's development, and they're also things we can influence by conversation. So I wanted to do actually what works, and then how can we actually do something on each of these areas. That's how I came up with it.
So I know people are out there going, yeah, 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 Tigo, where do we get the book? Where do we get the book? So tell everybody the name of your book and how they can find it.
Yeah, so it's called The Art of Talking with Children, and it's available either through the HarperCollins website or on Amazon or in many major bookstores also.
And I got to ask you, as a doctor of education, as a mom of 2, what's your secrets when everything, because it happens to all of us, when everything just seems to go off track? You had the plan for the day, you guys were going to do whatever, and it just imploded. What's your secret to get through those tough times when you just want to tell the kids, go back to bed, we'll start again tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've been there. I've for sure been there. I think the biggest thing is to try to find the humor in it. Try to laugh about it with your kids and even comment on it. I'll say things like, "This is just way out of control. Like, let's think about this. How can you help me bring this back together?" And kind of like even for my 5-year-old, he's sort of recognizing like, whoa, this is like, I was acting a little crazy. Like I gotta try to, let's redo that one. And so seeing it kind of as much as possible from a lighthearted perspective can kind of stop that sometimes.
So I gotta ask you, just give me a little tip for the mom, the dad that's out there, and they're just feeling like I cannot do this anymore. I'm gonna pack my little bag and I'm out of here. I'm moving to Dubai.
Yeah.
What would you tell a parent when they feel like they're just at the end of their rope?
Yeah, I would first say just to give yourself a break, that there's so many expectations for parents and caregivers that it's impossible for everyone to do it all. So if you're not doing it all, I think you should feel like that's very typical and that's fine. And I would say to just feel like if you need to have time for yourself, ask for time for yourself if you can, even a few minutes, and then realize that your kids also need time to themselves. So sometimes we feel like we have to be with kids all the time, but actually there's a lot of research showing that we need downtime as children as well. So feeling like that's not a bad thing.
You are the best, Dr. Rebecca. I'm so happy that you came on. I hope you'll come back later and we can do another just deep dive on just the 7 pillars. I think that would be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being on the show and hanging out with me.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was great.
You're the best. Hey, everybody, you know what to do. Go to Tigo Direct if you missed the name of the book, but I'll tell you again, it's The Art of Talking with Children. Not like my dad who talked at me. It's The Art of Talking with Children. Go to Amazon. You'll be able to find it there. Or go to tigodirect.com, type in children, type in 7 pillars. Dr. Rebecca will come up and reach out and talk to her. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you'll come back next time. And as always, I'm Tigo. I'll talk to you next time. Oh, I got to